Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session around Microsoft App Modernization on AWS. My name is Srivan Dattanayaka. I'm a Senior Partner Solution Architect at Amazon, focusing around Microsoft technologies. Today, we have two exciting guests to walk us through their app modernization story on AWS. And it's my pleasure to welcome Helder Klemp and Simon Farrell from Plutora. Let's start with Helder. Helder, why don't you give a quick introduction to you and DNX Solutions?
Sure. My name is Helder Klemp. I am CEO and co-founder of DNX Solutions. And in summary, DNX is this next generation of AWS partners born in the cloud with a vision to democratize clouds for the Australian companies. So that's a bit of the summary.
Thanks, Helder. Simon, give a quick introduction to you and Plutora, what you guys are doing in all these software development space.
Okay, I'm Simon Farrell. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Plutora. Plutora is a DevOps company. We focus on helping very large companies deliver software. So we have environment management, release management, deployment management software, and we solve problems that very large companies have when they try to get software to production. So and my background is in engineering. I've been engineering in 20 years, so have spent lots of time working on sort of modernizations and lots of time in the past working with SMEs trying to help them modernize and scale.
That's awesome, Simon. Tell a little bit about the challenges that you faced prior to modernization. What makes you go through this modernization journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when I started at Plutora is just like any other company that I've come across before. Also, much like many companies out there, they're 10 years old, they've grown quickly. The decisions on some of those decisions as you've grown have been ignored around scale and modernization. I describe it as metaphorically carrying a bag of rocks around. And as you move through your growth, you make a decision which might not be the right one. You add that rock to your backpack, you keep moving. And for us at Plutora, we got to a stage where that backpack was heavy, and it was time to look at ways to scale the business, but more economically. It's from a customer experience, it meant performance challenges. For a cost optimization, it meant you can always scale, but it's just going to cost you more. So we needed to make sure we could scale economically. But then also that was a point of like, okay, it's time to explore options to modernize.
Interesting. Helder, you have been in this app modernization space for a long time. What kind of unique problems and challenges that you saw in this particular project when you started the journey?
Yeah, sure. I think it's important to explain the journey first. Out there, we have all the Simons facing the same problems. So we engaged, DNX and Plutora engaged early in the beginning in the web architect review. That's normally the entry point to start a conversation where we run a review around security, around scalability, performance, and cost optimization. And there we identified some high priority items to be remediated. So we designed a roadmap of improvement. So first, let's start with the quick wins. Let's focus on security and creating this secure AWS platform. And then we said, hey, you have a big monolithic on Microsoft. And we have some challenges around .NET framework licensing as well, right? Renewal and change versions. And also scalability problems. So we work closely with AWS and you at the time to say, hey, what we can do for these customers, right? And AWS came up with this Windows Modernization Program that was literally fit for Plutora, where we engaged in a discovery session journey that was more like, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. We work with Simon, we work with my Windows Modernization team to really try to understand the status of the monolithic, the pain points, and then we created a business case. Say, hey, Simon, here's the output of the discovery where we tell you the impact of doing nothing, the impact of modernizing, and how long that will take and how long that will cost, and also the ROI, the return of investment as well. To assist Simon as a CTO to talk to his peers on the board level. So that's the output of the Windows modernization. And then with these outputs, we re-engaged as well later to do the implementation, where we went through two streams. One is the application modernization. In summary, basically moving from Windows to Docker to Linux containers, ACS Fargate, and moving from .NET Framework to .NET 6. And at the same time, the data side, the data modernization as well, where we basically move workloads to a next generation ETL process and data warehousing with Plutora support. So that's in summary was the journey.
That's awesome, Helder. So let's zoom in into that business case. So one of the things I have seen your business case before, the kind of business case that you put in place is an amazing one. It gives you different options. Hey, this is what to do in the first year of engagement, and this is how you can improve your product release maps. Simon, can you shed some light on how you use this business case to prioritize your activities, and also how you use it to highlight the importance of this modernization to your leadership team?
So back of what Helder said, we started off with I wanted to know as coming in CTO, like, are we operating correctly? Have we set things up right? We did a typical lift and shift, and so most companies that do that, you bring over the same problem. So by having DNX do that, and then going through this discovery process, and then presenting the options to me, allowed us to decide, well, hey, we're still a relatively small company. We need to make sure that every dollar that we invest in, we're going to get back in the form of help with retention and acquisition, etc. And so there's many different ways there, and I think it opened the conversation. So me coming to the board with just one option, it's very difficult to then bring them through the narrative of what you want to do. I wanted to involve the teams as well, including my leadership team, including my executive team, and so having those options from basically do nothing all the way through to rewrite our application is really useful, because it opened up the narrative, it opened up discussions, it opened up, at an executive level, we had those conversations like, if we did this, what would it cost? Obviously going to the right is very expensive, all the way through. And what we decided on is a bit of a middle ground. It's like, hey, let's try and focus on performance and cost optimization, and let's try and set the foundation first, and then it opens us up to that second phase, which is a much larger piece of work. But it was a lot easier to sell it into the executive team because I had those options on the table.
That's awesome. So when you start this journey, like, you already had a very competent developer team inside your organization. That's what you do. That's your bread and butter. You create tools for developers. If that's the case, why you decided to go with a partner like a DNX solution for your app modernization?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the reasoning is, like any sort of SME, we're around 80 people. We still have a small footprint in the sort of DevOps space. And so, we still have things to do. We still have things to deliver. So our team itself, we just didn't have internal capacity. And there's also a certain level of skills in modernization that you need. There's, exactly, how best to convert your application, which workloads to run on. These are the sort of things that you'd want to bring outside help in. So getting the help from DNX as well as AWS was really useful. So for us, and it wasn't hey, they're going to work on this. We went with the embedded model. And for me, that was hugely beneficial, not only because the team were on board, because we got to work alongside the DNX team, which helped upskill and bring the level up of our people, but also meant that there wasn't a knowledge transfer at all. We basically we ran alongside each other the whole time, and so it's just such an easier process to run through. So for us, the choice of bringing sort of DNX to come in with embedded was a no-brainer for us.
That's interesting. Helder, one of the value addition of the things that you bring into the table is that you have done these kind of engagements with multiple customers, multiple engagements. So that knowledge, that IP that you have built is something that's transferable to the next customer. So I know that you have when you approach application modernization, there's a very strong emphasis on the data state of the customer. Do you want to shed some light around the kind of things that you build along with the application modernization?
It's a set of workshops as well on the discovery side. Don't think that is only going there and then listing how many applications. No, it's not that. It's really understanding how the application works from the business perspective, the boundaries, the events. We actually have one workshop that's great, that's event storming, that we really try to understand the events in and out of the application to potentially migrate them to microservices later, right? So that's a business decision. So we go through these workshops from the business and also technical side, to assist decision, right? So we want to assist Simon's decision on the approach. And we developed this IP as well with assistance from you, from AWS, and from our customers as well. So today, for instance, we are very, very target. We are more focused on business value. Let's put it that way, right? Because that's what makes the decision from the board level. And from the delivery perspective, we started only with the application. Say, let's go only focus on the application. And then we realized that always we have data as well. It's impossible to go for application modernization without really touching or thinking or re-architecting the data around the application, because that pushes the applications back as well. So, hey, I can modernize my application, but I'm still sitting in an old SQL Server in EC2 with everything is hard. So we update ourselves as well, say, hey, now the modernization is data and application. And we are very assertive with our customers. We ask straight away, tell me about your data strategy. I don't have one. So we have two problems now, right? Because you're not using the data and we don't have a strategy to modernize the data. And we really try to educate the customers.
Simon, tell the kind of outcomes you got by going through this journey and the things that your organization as a whole learned.
Through the discovery, we identified a couple of main areas, well, two main areas. One was our data modernization and what we call our platform modernization. So the data modernization went first, and that was for us all about moving off your sort of traditional like Windows workloads and moving on to more cloud native services. We did that. We had a few production or performance related issues because of the way our old school data warehouse was working. So sort of moving that to sort of modern data warehouse workloads, we've now taken that pressure off our production systems, which has led to better performance. It's also led to sort of freshness of data, so our customers get the data sooner in the data warehouse. The best thing about is we've got the foundation from the data, and then we just continue to work on that now. So my team, through that handover process, we're able to now they continue to modernize and improve. On the platform side, we've released the application across all of our regions now, and so now we have auto-scaling architecture and applications. So that leads to, it's led to better performance, way better cost optimization. It's much easier to onboard teams because we're in Docker. It's much easier for our teams, faster build times. We were able to now start leveraging different build tools. So now we have much sort of, and this again was something that the DNX team worked with us. It wasn't just, move from X to Y. It was about the whole experience from the moment you start developing all the way through to production. We work with the DNX team to improve.
So how did you manage when two teams are working? So the DNX solution in one side is working on modernizing the application, while your team is busy releasing the features, addressing all the business critical issues. How did you two sync up, and how did you commit and manage all the kind of conflicts that may arise in the same code base?
It's a challenge. It's a real challenge. So, we actually went through a whole bunch of different scenarios that we worked alongside DNX on sort of what's the best approach. So obviously one way to do it was to, we took a branch of the code and then we modernized that branch, and then we kept going with production, and then every now and then we just went with a merge, release, and once it was in production we would merge in. We felt that was the best approach rather than either starting from scratch, is that we knew that just in case we had delays, which we inevitably did, we wanted to make sure that we could continue that path to production. So while we're doing the modernization, we were able to do about 7 or 8 major releases to our customers. So our customers were still getting value, but after each of those releases, we had just identified someone in the team who would do those merges. 90% of the time they were pretty easy. There was obviously some times where we had significant changes in our code base that were a little bit more challenging, but we had the test suite to cover it. So that was a decision for us, is to run in a separate branch, which has now become our main primary branch.
Interesting. Simon, so one of the things of working in the cloud technologies is that your developers get to work with the latest and greatest tools in the town, right? Did you see any uplift in the morale and the team dynamics, and also in the hiring front?
Yeah.
When you move from a monolithic application into the latest and greatest technologies?
Yeah, 100%. It's actually been the one, I think that was been the quickest feedback from the team. So the moment we started modernizing, the moment we got our workloads into Docker, so our application is a monolithic application. So in order to run it locally on your machine required a lot of resources, etc. And you could only run the whole thing at once. And so now we're able to choose which application we can run within that sort of monolithic stack. And And from an onboarding perspective, it's much easier now. So we've been able to bring on people, and it used to take around 5 to 6 days for them to get set up correctly. Now it's very easy. It's a matter of hours. And I think from a hiring purpose, I mean, just modernising in general, there's always a narrative that you want to, if you're going to bring someone into your company, I don't think there's always a negative connotation with monolithic. That's not, for me, that's not a bad thing. But I think if you've got a really good story that you are modernising, so when you are hiring people, that you are coming to an organisation that is trying to improve, that is trying to make things better, you're going to be part of that growth, you're going to learn. That's what's been a real attractive for new hires. But also internally, we've got really good retention at Plutora. So a lot of them wanted to learn. For them, they're just waiting for this decision to happen. They've been wanting this for a long time, and now that it's like great, they all know that it's great for their future as well. So I think that's been the most impact for me has been the internal stuff.
Interesting. Tell somebody who is watching this video, or a CTO or a CEO who wants to go through this modernization journey, what kind of advices and wisdom that you can impart on them if they are planning to go through this journey? Yeah,
I think the advice would be, obviously it's a very daunting task when you come in, and there's always lots of things to do, and I think you've got to prioritise. So firstly, it's just really trying to make sure you prioritise the value. It always has to be, around the value to customers ultimately, or internal customers. So it's either external customers or internal customers. What's the value going to be? I think don't be afraid to work with companies like DNX. I mean, often there's an apprehension. Often you think we need that skill in-house, but I think done well, and so done with that embedded model, it's not only going to bring the experts in to help, but you're also going to upskill the team, but also your team will grow. So I honestly, the advice there would be, make sure you prioritise, but I think it's worth, where you can, bringing people where you need to supplement the teams that you've got.
Such a pleasure to talk with you guys and have this discussion. And it's interesting to see how you have started small, put a business case, went through that entire journey, and finally came across these amazing outcomes. It's a pleasure to talk with you guys, and hope you do such fantastic job in the future also. Thank you all.